of what has happened over the weekend. But yesterday, Chief wanted to see and feel what it looks like to have, a different part of the UK, which is visiting Wales yesterday. Wales is a population of 3 million. So last night, afternoon we were driving all the way to Wales. I'll be telling you a little bit more about that. Chief is still engaging the community here, the Nigerian Yoruba community in the UK. But the most important thing is, we are live here. Like you said yesterday, we couldn't get through yesterday because it was a tight schedule yesterday. But like I said, if all goes as planned, we will still have Chief with us. Like I said, maybe if not tomorrow, we might look at it maybe for Monday. But for now, I'm still here with you, and I'll be telling you more about some of the activities and the reaction, especially not just what happened in London. There's a lot happening in Nigeria right now that we are also going to be discussing. I know I've not posted anything, but I'll be doing so as we go along. But for now, we welcome those that have joined us on the sister broadcast as well. This is the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London, and my name is YORÀBÁ Koiki.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. YORÀBÁ Koiki for you, reporting live from Manchester. Yes, after last week's events and everything. But let's come to that because it's quite interesting. Back as a few months on, we were looking at things have been quiet, and after the arrest of Sunday and then being in Benin, and then we have Professor having to move to Benin and stuff like that. So there was that momentum. But it looked like the government at the time managed to, throw the spanner in the web, and everything just went like scattering. So people had lost hope. People, and a few of the listeners who were contacting me and say, "Oh, we don't hear about that. Is a question going on?" Until, with other activities that Mr. YORÀBÁ Koiki couldn't be with us on air because they were preparing everything on the ground. And then it climaxed last week when there were presentation, the dinner night, and then came to the presentation of the letters to number 10 Downing Street and everything. Now, it looks like there's been a bit of a vimp there. Now, how was the reaction of the Yoruba community in Wales when you went there? Do you have any chance of meeting any of them?
Well, we didn't have the time to engage the community. It was again more like a private visit, but again, a staunch member of the Yoruba, in Wales, and that is Mr. Kayode Mola, is also one out of the many members. Remember that when the movement started in 2019, we had quite a lot of different groups that scattered all over the place, and Emola with some other individual decided that it would be of best interest to have a body, and that was a lot of work. Remember that to bring groups that have been operating either as Yoruba campaigner, or groups that are just part of Nigeria, or groups that are just Nigerian Yoruba community. But eventually, I can confirm that after a tireless work by Mr. Kayode Emola and so many other groups as well that came together, there was what we now call the Yoruba Self-Determination Movement, known as the YSDM. Under the YSDM, we have about 92 different groups that are operating. One of those groups is Ifelodu Akpakpo, that brought in Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho into the UK for the dinner and the rally, but in conjunction with the other groups as well. So you can see that what they've done, not that we haven't done rally before in the past, but the fact that we want to be united, and you're quite right, for over a year and a half, there was a lot of distraction. There was a lot of, spanner into the wheel, but it looks like the wheel has been readjusted, and that has get a lot of conversation since Saturday, even though we know that the Prime Minister have not responded yet, but it looks like there is an intimidation from the Nigerian government to the British High Commission back in Abuja, Dr. Montegero, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about that, because also Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho is saying, not warning, but telling the Nigerian government to stop all the intimidation to the diplomat, because the discussion now is we need to come on the round table and decide whether we still want to remain as one entity or not. And if we're going to remain one entity, under what rules? The Yoruba wants to go, the Igbos wants to go, and the question is, everybody wants to know the content of that letter. And like we say, the content remain none for anyone to see. I don't even know what the content is. Not even Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho. The only person that knows the content is our leader, Professor Adebanji Akintoye.
Well, but we can say that, with everything that is going on, is the quest for the Yoruba nation to be established, and that the government of Nigeria will help.
Oh yes, you're quite right. The reason for the letter, and there's a lot of conversation. A lot of people are saying it's a petition, but it was a letter that was delivered, and that letter has what it entails, that the Yoruba people wants to exit, Nigeria. No one will give you a country. There's no doubt about that. Not even the United Nations does give a country, but it is important that to engage countries around the world, and most importantly, the country that merged Nigeria together in 1914, amalgamation. A lot of people say that amalgamation is a fraud itself, but whether it's a fraud or not, there is still a country called Nigeria. And until everyone comes on the round table, Nigeria is still existing. But the worry is Nigeria, as the former president Obasanjo said, and quote, that is sitting on the keg of gunpowder.
Sit on the keg of gunpowder is just a matter of time. So you don't act, then it's just a matter of time, explosion will take place. But we pray that we will not get to that point, that there will be amicable settlement. Now, one of my listeners have been listening to all these questions. He hails from Ghana, and he was asking that. He said, for a fight like this to take place, and the machinery to be moving and doing everything, it calls for financing. Do we have people helping? Or because for you to just leave London, leave your work, and then till Sunday also living Germany, going to that place, and then you moving up and down, organizing everything, it's all money, money, money. How are the Yoruba people, let me put it that way first, because it's first them, and then we can look at other people outside, contributing or helping in that part. And then if we want to appeal to people to know that this is a quest, and we have to, we're not only sacrificing our life, but we sacrifice our substance, our money, and our time and everything into it. Like you are devoting yourself, and other people have devoted themselves. I mean, times that they have to wake up, times that they have to rest. They're on the road and stuff like that. How has contribution of financing been like?
Well, in any organization and in any movement like what we have, you will need funding, and that is something that we've always stressed out, that since you do not want to get the politician to fund it, that will make it a compromise movement. So what we have said is, many individuals, and let's be grateful to the Yoruba communities around the world. You'll be surprised that even the Yoruba communities that are living in Nigeria right now are also contributing. We have what we call, different organizations. Like I said, we have about 92 of them, and they have the right to operate and also seek for financial support and assistance to whatever they were going to be doing. Let's talk about the event that have just been completed. Yes, it was a dinner that was paid for £100. That means that, we were able to fund the project, because it's a project, and that project, as we've said, it was delivered successfully. We also decided that it would be nice, not just celebrating the birthday, to also have the rally in place, and that rally led to what is now generating the real discussion. Even nobody's talking about the dinner now. What people are talking about is, yesterday we are receiving calls from America. I can tell you that, you have been the privilege to hear that, even the NADECO in America are communicating with me now, saying they want to know where they can come in as well. Remember that the NADECO were also fighting, during the Abacha era, until Bola Tinubu decided to play mago as usual, when it comes to organization. So funding is just like the Labour Party and the Conservative that had the election in July 6th needed the public to support. Many people are paying monthly, and like some of us as individuals, let's continue to be grateful that we have dedicated Yorubas that knows that the job of a media like we are is important to be funded, so that we can create the awareness. We have also been told by the leader of the Yoruba nation, Professor Kitoye, that we should contribute what we call Ewa Oromiyan. Ewa Oromiyan means that every month, wherever you are around the world, you contribute $10, €10, 10 Canadian, 10 American, or 10 Naira. And to be honest with you, there are more Yorubas in Nigeria that have paid their 1-year subscription. Remember, if you are listening to us right now, we are also paying subscription to some of the gadgets that we are using. And like we always say, funding is the key. And funding must also be managed, because a lot of people have always come out to say, money has been donated, money has been squandered, no accountability, and we're not donating anymore. But one thing is, there is accountability, and there is money that is well used for this project in the last 4 years. We know that the project was also divided along the line, with people that came in. But one thing is, under the leadership of Professor Baji Akintoye, the movement remains strong. And since Saturday, as we say, the Nigerian government is now asking what was in the content of the letter.
Well, the Nigerian government keeps on asking what was the content of that letter. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Radio UK and the Thursday edition of the morning show. Mr. OLAYOMI KOIKI reporting live from Manchester, and I'm actually here in the main studios in London, Croydon to be specific, bringing you everything that you need to know. But now let's touch one other issue, and then we'll come to other news that is making the rounds in Nigeria. Now, why is the Nigerian government trying to intimidate the British ambassador, high commissioner in Nigeria?
Well, it is quite shameful that we have a government that refused to listen. And let me take you back before we come back to that. Let me take you back to April, this year, 17th of April precisely, when Professor Adebanji Akintoye, Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho, and Otumba Ademola, the deputy, of the YSDM, wrote a letter to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, telling the president to let us come on a roundtable discussion because we wrote the same letter to Buhari, and it would be nice to have this discussion so that we can move forward as the people, Yorubas, the indigenous that have the right under Article 3 of the United Nations and under the European Union and African Union to seek for self-determination. But as usual, Tinubu that told us some years back while he was in exile here in London, in Milton Keynes precisely, that he doesn't believe in one Nigeria, refused to allow that discussion to go ahead. I'm just going to give you a sneak view of what we wrote to him because we have to remind people, of this communication, because a lot of people are saying, you have just gone to the number 10 Downing Street and dropped the letter, when you should be dropping that letter to the Senate. The question is, not only the Senate got the letter, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, got the letter, but it did not and refused to communicate back. The question is that a democracy, or are we still under a kind of a military, dictatorship? The question is, the President have every right to reply us back, but he refused to do so. And if he has refused to do so, that means the next step has been taken. And like I said, it is just one bullet out of many bullets that will be fired into the air because the Yoruba people are tired of being part of Nigeria. And I'll not go through all the letter, but like we say, this is a sneak view before we go back to what that intimidation is coming from Abuja. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President of Nigeria, President Office, Aso Rock, Abuja, Federal Capital Territory, Nigeria, April 17, 2024. Your Excellency, we Yoruba Self-Determination Movement, leading the Yoruba self-determination struggle for the Yoruba sovereign state separate from Nigeria, have the honor to send to Your Excellency this important letter, just like the same important letter that we've dropped to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, that everybody is now asking the question all over the place. This letter on behalf of many millions of Yoruba people at home in the Yoruba land in Nigeria and the Yoruba diaspora in almost all countries across the world. We send this letter most respectfully to Your Excellency as a follow-up to our earlier letter dated 6 August 2022, which we delivered to your predecessor, President Muhammadu Buhari, in his exile. The purpose of the letter is that the message of our earlier letter to President Buhari was that we, the Yoruba people of the southwest part of Nigeria, consisting of the Yoruba people of Ekiti State, Lagos State, Ogun State, Ondo State, Osun State, Oyo State, Yoruba local government area of Kogi State and Kwara State, and the Shekiri homeland of Delta State altogether, amounting to an estimated total number of 60 million, desire to exercise, assert our self-determination as an indigenous nation, and therefore to constitute our homeland in Nigeria into a Yoruba sovereign state. Maybe the president will react to that, but I can tell you he did not. Then let's go back to the reaction of the government since Saturday, especially when the Minister of Foreign Affairs called the Dr. Richard Montiguri, the current British High Commissioner in Nigeria. And these are some of the headlines that came out of that, in the last 72 hours. First, before we go back to the response from Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho, my boss, this is what comes out. Sunday Igboho submitted a petition to the UK minister to consider That was coming over the weekend until on Monday, there was now what we called a counter-attack. Remember that the government has the machinery to the media, but what they forgot to understand is the media is now open to everyone. I do not need to go to anywhere. We are right here on the Star Radio UK discussing this same conversation, in as much as all the media in Nigeria refuse to give us airtime. And we are grateful to have the Star Radio UK. And that's what we're saying to the Yoruba community around the world, including Manchester. If you're going to listen to self-determination discussion, not because of anything, because the Star Radio UK is there to let us have the view, because this is how it is done, and we expect the same thing. So let's go to one of the news network in Nigeria, and this was the headline. British High Commissioner Sunday Igboho's letter to the UK Prime Minister holds no weight. Let me tell Dr. Richard Montgomery, he has no right to say that that letter has no weight. That letter has more than enough weight, because it's the same right that the Scottish people were given to have a referendum in 2014. We're not asking the government of Britain to give us a referendum, but we are giving them an advance, information that is not going to be as easy as it was in the past, and that is part of what the letter is also saying. But the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, has described the letter submitted by Sunday Adeyemo Igboho as Sunday Igboho, a Yoruba Nation self-determination activist at number 10 Downing Street. He noted that the UK government typically does not concern itself with petition covering the sovereignty of a state or affair. Now, this was the response from Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho himself to Dr. Richard Montgomery, because we were concerned that it seems that the Nigerian government, as usual, are planning to intimidate him. So yesterday we released another press statement, and this is exactly what we released. Yoruba Nation, don't intimidate the British envoy over my letter, Igboho tells the federal government. And this is how it goes. The Yoruba Nation agitator Sunday Igboho, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, has cautioned the federal government against intimidating the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, over his recent petition on Yoruba Nation. Nobody will intimidate nobody, and we are here to say that we remain a law-abiding. We have lived in the UK. Igboho lives in Germany. He's not a criminal. Babakitoye has lived in Benin Republic, and exactly what we are doing is exactly what the Yoruba people want. We know that there are some Yorubas that are also against it, and one of those, and too many of those groups, are the APC in the UK. And the question is, what have they done to bring security, education, welfare on their own mandate that have failed because the mandate is shaking under the pampas?
The mandate is shaking under the pampas. That's a big one there. But listeners, it is quite interesting. It's all coming away from Star Radio UK. We don't want you to touch the dial at all, because we're going to be bringing you more from where Mr. OLAYOMI KOIKI is in Manchester, updates from Nigeria. But Yomi, before we move on to the other stories making around. Now, the lawyers in Nigeria, I put them, those in the legal fraternity. Now, have they ever mentioned the amalgamation issue in Nigeria at all? Because that is the foundation of the whole thing. We are going to get married. They say, you know what? This marriage is not forever, but then we'll put you all together. Now, after some time, you can sit back. Maybe after 100 years, let's sit back and let's reassess and see whether the relationship is working or not. If it is not working, then we can decide to call it a day. Now, those in the legal fraternity, have any of them, not those in the Yoruba, but let's say others, let's say those in the North, because when it comes to those who are saying that you have to present the letter to the Senate, majority of the senators are coming from the North, who will not agree to do that. And that is why we have all this thing that is going on. But what do you think, the lawyers, has there been anybody outside the Yoruba group saying that, look, this particular clause in that amalgamation shows or means that we can go back to renegotiate or re-look at the relationship? Has there been anything of the sort?
Well, I'm going back. Yeah, you're quite right. There's quite a lot of discussion in the past, away from those that are Yoruba that are asking. And I'm taking you back to some of the articles, the British colony policy and the challenge of the national unity in Nigeria, 1914 to 2014, when the amalgamation expired. The Sun, Charanchi leader coalition of the northern groups, Angola, Abdullahi was right. And let me bring that because that will reflect, was right. This is not a Yoruba man. This is not someone from the southeast. This is somebody from the northern part of Nigeria saying, was right. Nigeria should reveal the 1914 amalgamation. This article was on the 10th of August this year. Our leaders should see protests as warning of impending danger. The leader of the coalition northern groups, CNG, Jamilu Aliyu Charanchi, has said that the End Bad Governance protest is a testimony that Nigeria isn't working and so many things are going wrong. It described President Bola Tinubu's recent speech as empty. It was saying something different while the country was saying another thing. He noted in an interview with Vincent Kalu, the CNG leader berated the past, the present political leaders of the northern for underdevelopment of the region. He said, however, that the signing into the law of the Northwest Development Commission was a good development. So you can tell that it is not just the Yorubas or the Biafras that are crying for end Nigeria. Those in the northern part are saying the same thing, that this amalgamation is no longer working, and for peace to reign, it is better that we all de-amalgamate Nigeria.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Star Radio. YòRÀBÁ Koiki in the northern part of the UK. So let's call it in Manchester specifically, where we are bringing you updates. I'm here in the south, in Croydon, and we are bringing you all the updates from Nigeria. Now, hopefully, either tomorrow or next week, we'll be having Dr. Chisande Adeyemo joining us, and we'll be asking him more questions about the fight for the, let me put it this way, independence. All right, and we had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Akintoye, Professor, my apologies, Professor Akintoye, last Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, Monday.
Monday, yeah. Things are running very fast, and I'm thinking that.
Yeah, because you're getting paid tomorrow. It's a weekend.
You see. Yeah, so that's how. But we will try to bring more light, because education, and we cannot do that. That is why we have Koikimedia. We've got all the platforms that we try to make sure that we bring the information to the forefront. Then you can listen to it and you can think about it, and then you can go on to know, to make a decision whether what we are saying is the right thing or not. But ladies and gentlemen, Star Radio UK, let's come to some of the substantive issues making the rounds today in Nigeria. Petrol price hike, federal government, labor leaders meet, it's a kid mom. Now, interestingly, we thought that the president, when they increased the wages of workers, labor, organized labor, they said, okay, we will keep the petrol prices so that it doesn't impact them negatively. Okay, but now it looks like no, government doesn't seem to be in power, and things are just going on. Now, labor was agitating once again that, look, this is what you said, and you are failing, and therefore we're going to go on another strike. But government is calling them to the table. You know what I mean? What should we expect?
The issue of the petrol is still, a lot of concern to many Nigerians, and you're quite right. The union, that represent many Nigerians, whether from the civil society or others, continue to be concerned because the amount that you are earning will not allow you to get to your final destination. So many Nigerians are walking, and I mean walking a long trek to get to their final destination because the price of petrol. So fuel price, now the reps is warning of unrest. And the word unrest means that, how long can Nigerians continue? A 10,000 naira cannot get you a lot of petrol this morning. And we continue to spend a lot, especially for some of us that are concerned that we have families that needs to be online, for other reasons or also. So the federal government and the labor meeting has now become a deadlock. So nothing seems to be coming out of it. Are we going to see another protest coming out on the street in the end of this month? I don't know yet. But government plans fresh meeting with the union leaders as the reps demand petrol price to be reviewed. A lot of Nigerians believe that when something goes up, it doesn't come down. And that has always been the norm. But the House of Representatives on Wednesday yesterday cautioned the recent hike in the fuel price could trigger social unrest. So you can see that what we said earlier at the beginning is that Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Nobody wants a civil unrest, but when you're pushing your citizen into extreme poverty, you must prepare for the worst case scenario.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Star Radio UK, the Thursday edition of the morning show. I have OLAYOMI KOIKI in Manchester. I'm here, and there's a few stories there, and I'll allow Yomi to just go through all of them. And once it's done, we can just have a time to ask him a few questions. Over to you, sir.
Do we now have an empty vacuum in Abuja? Because Tinubu, that told us is going away for 2 weeks. 2 weeks will elapse in the next 72 hours. Well, not just that alone, the vice president is also leaving Nigeria. Is Nigeria now on autopilot? And that is the headline. No leadership vacuum despite Tinubu and Shettima absent presidency. I mean, you wonder why the two of them are leaving simultaneously. Let me also tell you that, we know that the chief of staff, Lagbaja, has been sneaked out of Nigeria because it's currently in a critical situation as we speak right now, according to the report that is reaching us, through the desk. Onanuga also noted that all the state organs are functioning as usual. Is there something that we don't know? Or is it just a normal that the vice president leaves and the president is on holiday? Presidency yesterday said that the absence of President Tinubu and the vice president that is heading to Sweden in the country does not create any leadership vacuum. Maybe Akpabio number 3 will take over. While Tinubu departed for the country on the 2nd of October for a 2 weeks working leave, Shettima left Abuja yesterday for Sweden on a 2-day visit to represent Nigeria in a bilateral engagement with the Scandinavian nation. The question is, can't the vice president send a representative, or is it just the love of traveling in that beautiful aircraft? A statement was issued yesterday by Bayo Onanuga. The information and strategy said that the two leaders are fully engaged, but they'll be doing that from outside the country. What a very great time to be alive that, both leaders have left. So I'm going to go to business because many businesses are folding up in Nigeria. Many businesses are struggling. And the question is, what can be done to revive it? Exciting multinational opportunistic Nigerian firms have risk appetite. This is coming from a former governor of Central Bank and the current governor of one of the states as well, Soludo. It says that government must de-risk some investment as indigenous Nigerians have higher risk appetite to invest in the country. I will not invest in Nigeria no matter how profitable it is, and I have my reason for that. Security-wise, there is no law that will protect that business. There will also be a lot of injustice should anything go wrong. I'm currently in a business premises where we're reporting from called Kentos Ventures Limited. Many Nigerians that are Yoruba that are doing great. This is the kind of what we want to replicate back. They have a logistic, they have other things that they're selling African product here. But the question is, should there be a dispute that, Kentos takes to Nigeria to invest, and they will solve that dispute? Remember that most of the state also decide what they wish, especially if the governors are changing. So Soludo is now saying that if you want diaspora to come and invest, you must also de-risk the risk as well. Let's go into that, article a little bit. Anambra State Governor, and remember, Captain John. I'm sure you remember Archie. Captain John is from that region. Remember that Captain John wanted to import yams and yellow pepper into the UK, and in 10 years we've not been able to do it. The question is, why has that failed? Is because there is so much that is not ready for business engagement in Nigeria to European countries. So the Anambra State Governor, Chukwuma Soludo, says indigenous Nigerian, well, there's nothing called Nigeria. Again, that's the fraud, because it should be indigenous Yoruba, indigenous Hausa, indigenous Biafra. But because the 1914 fraudulent amalgamation has joined us to be known as Nigeria, so they have to use the word indigenous. We are indigenous as separate, but they've joined it together. Indigenous Nigerian companies like Kentos Ventures operating in Manchester have higher risk appetite than the foreign investors and multinational. The foreign investors also have risk, but they can pull out. And we saw that when United Arab Emirates refused to operate in Nigeria because they could not take out their money that was owed by Nigeria. And I hope that has been resolved. He is the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, described foreign companies exiting the country as opportunist firms that jump from one country to another the day they have itchy feet. Soludo was speaking yesterday in Abuja at another business investment summit. Only God knows how many investment summits continue in Nigeria that doesn't make any impact to the lives of many people around the country itself. He said further that the government must learn to de-risk certain strategy investment for the private sector as indigenous nationals have the higher risk appetite to invest in Nigeria. And like I said, that is my own opinion. I will not invest in Nigeria no matter how profitable it is, because it is still a lawless country that doesn't respect rule of law. And if you're going to invest in a country that doesn't respect rule of law, you must also prepare for the worst case scenario. I'm going to take one more from the news, come back to you in the studio. If we can review that, then we'll take you straight to where all is happening on the other side on the social media. Let's go back to more news. Once again, this is the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. Nigeria, IFAD, highlight importance of empowering rural women. I remember in 2021 when I was in Nigeria, we traveled with myself to Chief to certain areas of the rural part of Southwest, and the empowerment is just not there. We're not talking about the empowerment of giving them, kuli and bread and maggi. We're talking about training, giving them the tools to work with, because most of these rural women are ready to add their input into the community. But the federal government of Nigeria, in now collaboration with International Fund for Agricultural Development, has recently highlighted the urgent need to invest in this demographic at the 2024 International Day of Rural Women. I'm sure some of this event has been taking place for years, but the impact does not really reach the grassroots. We have 774 local government under the 36 states, including the FCT. IFAD, Value Chain Development Program Knowledge Management and Communication Coordinator, Mrs. Vera Onyeka Onyelu, discloses in the statement the event was held in Abuja at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, brought together the key stakeholders. For now, I'm back again to the studio. Mr. Archie, this is still the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Yes, listeners, Mr. YORÀBÁ KOIKI in the South Studios, and we're bringing updates. Now, interestingly, you touch on the story that you touch on empowering women in agriculture. Now, we've forgotten what you were talking about, Captain John, and it all stems up from bureaucracy that goes on there. And again, the insecurity that is going on. We have farmers going to their farms, planting or doing whatever things, and we have herdsmen bringing their cattle, destroying people's destiny and killing people. And then we have people who are kidnapping people, and eventually people running over people's earnings. Now, it seems that they seem to be putting the cart before the horse, because the basic thing, what they have to do, they are not doing it. Insecurity in the country, it's on the high. And therefore, if you say, oh, okay, let's empower them, let's give them money, is it the one in front of their houses?
Or the one that the terrorists Fulani are.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad. I hope that they are not just going for this. One of our friends was a tea party, just making the statements and having some drinks, and then they go home and they get all those benefits that they get from there. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Radio. Now let's look at the. Okay, I missed that one. Yes, the investment again. We're talking about. We're talking about indigenous Nigerians, where when we talk about, like we are saying, people are saying that we are fed up with whatever system that is operating there. We don't want to be part of it. So if you say indigens, then we're talking about Yoruba indigens. We're talking about maybe Hausa indigens. We're talking about the Arab tribes as well. But the question is, ladies and gentlemen, just join us. Yomi. Yes. Don't you worry. Okay. The question is, how prepared? You were saying that you were not prepared to to go invest in Nigeria because of the lawlessness that goes on there. Now, how prepared are those of us who are living, those in the diaspora, who think that, well, we can risk it, because after all, we still have our people there. We have our people there. Therefore, if you invest something there, at least they know that they can come and maybe get some naira to buy some food to eat or something like that. How does it all work for the Nigerians in the diaspora? What do you think?
Well, as long as you are prepared, that death can come true as well. Let me take you back to two most important diaspora that died in the process, and also part of what we've been saying. Dr. Aborode was a PhD that lives in Germany all his life. Wanted to set up a mechanized farming. It was already set up. It was operating until the Fulani tied in and killed him. That Dr. Aborode has the same tribal mark with Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho. That was part of what Dr. Sunday Igboho went to the look, your people were given the access to eat some of the crops that was the leftover after the harvesting, but yet you went ahead and killed Dr. Burudi. Let's put that to one hand. Let's go back to Mr. Gbenga Wolabi that flew from Maryland, had an hotel, employed Nigerians, and also had a farm as well. He was also kidnapped, killed, and the body was, returned back to Maryland. You're quite right. We still want to support our people back home. I do support businesses back home, because that is the only way we can help them. But the problem is, when we talk about the real diaspora that wants to go back home and invest, we not just invest, they want to go back and participate from the healthcare, especially we have many Nigerians that are working tirelessly in the healthcare sector in America, in Canada, in Australia, and right here in the UK that wants to take their expertise and set up a clinic or whatever. But again, the bureaucracy in each of the state, you must know someone and you must bribe someone. And some of us have done that in the past. Not that we have not invested in Nigeria. I invested in Nigeria, throughout, the 2 decades I've lived here, but no return came out of it. And there's nobody to take to the court, especially when you are dealing with a country that has a lot of different reasons why people want to remain separate.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Star Radio UK, we allow Yomi to bring you what is happening on the social media platform so that we can bring the conversation, because it's been a lengthy one, a quite interesting one as well. Over to you, Yomi.
Well, Nigeria does not have a currency problem. Our problem is lack of productivity. This is coming from Obiera. We are not a productive nation and have deliberately refused to do simple things that will make the economy productive. Dr. Emeka Obiara, Development Economics. Well, let's listen to a little bit of it.
We have is the issue of unproductivity. We are not a productive nation, and we have refused to deliberately do simple things that will make this economy a very productive economy. It breaks my heart every time we sit down to keep on discussing, Naira is losing value. I read somewhere somebody was lamenting, Naira is today trading at 1,705 to $1. And I asked him this simple question: are you expecting the Naira to gain by the convertible currencies when we practically produce nothing and practically imports everything that we can easily produce here? I'll give you an example. Nigeria has no business importing over $11 billion worth of agro commodities, things we can easily produce here. Nigeria has no business importing $8 billion worth of white petroleum products and minerals that we can easily refine here. Most of the things we waste our scarce dollar resources on are things we can competitively produce here and export.
Well, I'm sure you've had, a bit of that, and I'll probably just read some of the comment below that so that we can see the response. And, according to of being governed by people with third brain and third world ideas, there's no time in this world when a goat has ever birthed a lion. Therefore, there is no time when third world brain leaders will transform a country into a first world. What are these third world brain ideas? Inability to establish a modern state-of-the-art ranching system. Number 2, distribution of rice and indomie like in the refugee camps. Number 3, sharing keke tricycle, which developed world. Have you ever seen tricycle as a form of public transportation? Third world brain. Number 4, complete absence of world-class institution, facilities, etc. Not one university, hospital, market road, airport, etc. is world-class. Medrocrat is multiplied throughout the nation. Number 5, leaders who are shameless about rigging election and flaunting the outcome as victory. Number 6, third world policy, not even in the nation's capital will you get proper, adequate, effective policing and police attitude you expect at the capital where many foreigners live. We can at least pretend there and make our policy classy and modern. But the third world brain leaders do not like this. They are comfortable with police carrying assault rifles everywhere. Number 7, political office holders who are comfortable with being worshipped, flattered with, encourage and promote psychophonic behavior around them. That is an attribute of a third world brain. Assault first world leaders affirm, disciplinaries. And I will just add the nation where the president, Tinubu and the rest will leave Nigeria and shout to us, welcome to London, and receive their medical.
Does it sound it well for you, listeners? I tell you, it's something well. They said everything is fine. You have to stay there. But when they are ill, they fly here to get the best medical care. If what is happening in your country, in Nigeria, in other parts of Africa, is good.
And the last part it says, I just picked up. Therefore, you have it. Nigeria will remain a third world nation for 1,000 years. The Yoruba people will have left before then.
Hopefully, let's pick fingers and everything across, and let's see development. But as we said, we promise you, we're going to be having Dr. Chief Sunday either tomorrow or sometime next week. We'll be bringing it to you so that he can make his vision clear to you wherever you are. And every other program that goes on Koikimedia or the other platforms that are connected with this quest, we ask that when they are listening to it, and share your take with us, because we know that wisdom is not. But if we put our strength and our minds together, we are able to move forward. Yomi, before you.
Well, stay tuned with Archie. Archie has a lot to give you. I'll be tomorrow, God's willing, where we will continue to explore Manchester before we'll be heading back to London. But for now, it's a beautiful, outing here. But like I said, we're grateful to the host, especially those that hosted the event here, from Olorieko to Kento's Ventures and the husband and the family, for taking good care of us and all the Nigerian community in Manchester.
Okay, let me say thank you very much to all the Nigerian community in Manchester, but I'm going to bring you a tune. Today I'm not bringing you Yoruba Nation, I'm bringing you Orile-Demi from Jeanette as well. Enjoy that song. It is for all the Yoruba listeners, and yes, everyone of us. Thank you very much, Yomi, and I'll be back with you to bring you more of what is happening from across the world. Enjoy the music.
Good morning, everyone. Moke easy, brother. I'm in Miami. I'm an BP pani. Like I end the lane. I'm an BP. I got me triple. Mo ṣe ń wá pictures here. Mo á rí pé wà lẹ́yìn níbì kan tí mo capture yín. So I'm just releasing our pictures gradually. My strength, I'm still building it back. I'm sure you all want me to be strong. So am I can play the program so that we can still save the voice. There's a lot that wants to be said, but I'm reserving those until I am back actually on the road. And that means, there's little I want to be saying, on a full program. But lágbára Ọlọ́run, fọkànbalẹ̀. If you like this kind of outfit, fashion designer mi polongo. So tẹ́ bá fẹ́ràn orúkọ tí mo wọ̀ yìí, intele ṣe fẹ́ mi ni pé ẹ lọ sórí Omitaf Culture. Ṣàrí bó ṣe dúró lára mi. Ṣàrí pé mo dúró dáadáa. Wọ́n ti rán fún mi tó pọ̀, but apparently, kọ́lọ̀ kò fi wá lọ́kàn balẹ̀ torí iṣẹ́ ta gbé dání. So ẹni tó bá like irú nǹkan tí mo wọ̀, ẹ wà l'American. Easy mo gbàgbé o. Kí n fún ẹ ní méjì, but apparently ọbẹ̀ máa post ẹ̀ sí ní Miami bí a ti bá dẹ̀ ń bọ̀ l'America máa bá yín mú dání. So ẹni tó bá like tí mo wọ̀ yìí, máa wà ní kí n polówó fún ẹ, mo polówó fún anybody o. This one is special. Àwọn tó ń bá mi ránṣọ lélẹ̀ for more than over 20 years. So ẹ bá ti rí báyìí, wọ́n lè bá yín ṣe ní any design tẹ́ bá fẹ́. I have it in collections in at home. Mo ní different colors. So but bàtà ráyè ilé nísìnyí lẹ́yìn kí n máa fi ran máa make owó mi. Bàdúpẹ́ fẹ́yìn bí wá pé báwo la ṣe ń survive in a program called Yoruba Nation. Bàdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀yàn ọmọ Yorùbá tí ẹ fi sílẹ̀ pé Koiki ìwọ ṣáà máa bá ṣẹ́ lọ, èyí táwa bá ní a máa fi ràn ẹ́ lọ́wọ́ fún lè ṣẹ́ ẹ̀. So ẹ má pay owó sínú First Bank mi mọ̀ ní access sí mọ́ láti ìgbà tí card mi ti expire ní access. So mo lè ti lè gba card mi nígbà tá a lè lọ Nàìjíríà. Ẹ̀yin lọ Nàìjíríà nísìn, àwọn ò lè pàgìrì lọ Nàìjíríà, but mo ní ó pay. Tẹ bá fi fún mi ní náírà, ẹ má san sí First Bank. Gbogbo owó tẹ san síbẹ̀ ní access sí mọ́ báyìí, but eventually we work on something. So we do something. So gbogbo ẹni tó bá like aṣọ báyìí, ẹ fi ṣe party, ẹ fi ṣe wedding, tọmọ kékeré ni, ẹ ní di last token, ẹ contact me. So mo fún yín ní details. Okay, lọ sórí Instagram, I think is Omitaf Culture. Omitaf Culture. So thank you so much. Chief is fine. That's all I can say. He has his privacy, and we must respect that. Like I always say, this man has his own privacy. So, we must respect that, and we will leave it like that. Let us not be worried and be intimidated. Bullet kan ni mo ṣe ní kí bàbá Kítóyè fún wa. Wọ́n dẹ̀ gbé bullet yẹn lé Ìgbòho lọ́wọ́. Ìgbòho dẹ̀ gbé láwa Yorùbá World Media. Adẹ̀jú síta. So ẹ jẹ́ kí bullet tó kù kó ṣì wà nínú àpò. Gbogbo àwọn tó ń sọ pé this, that. Ẹ má dá wọn lóhùn. Then gbogbo ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa, just because I still have a bit of time, a lot of you get worried too much. Ẹ má ti rí headline kan, Koiki yé, Koiki gbas, Koiki kí la tún gbọ́ yìí o. Ẹ má ìkẹ́ni kankan fún yín ní high blood pressure. Ẹ̀yin ìyá mi, okay? N tó bá àwọn Nigerian government ní kó máa sọ. A ti wà ní the end of Nigeria. Ṣé UK ló yẹ kẹ́ lọ ní? Ṣé UK ló máa fún yín ní country ni? Ṣé mi sọ fún yín pé UK máa fún wa country ni? Èmi ò sọ pé UK máa fún wa country. Bàbá Kítóyè sọ fún yín pé UK máa fún country. Ìgbòho rẹ̀ sọ pé UK máa fún yín ní country. So kò síbi kankan tá ti sọ fún ọmọ Yorùbá pé wọ́n máa fún yín ní country. There's nowhere we said so. But people wants to know what is in the content of the letter. Èmi náà mọ̀ tó wà nínú ẹ̀. That's what they want to know. Wọ́n ti pè Ìgbòho pa pé. So ẹ ká fọkàn wa balẹ̀. We're on the right track. Wọ́n náà dákẹ́. Triple DRS, gbogbo ẹni ká jáde, adẹ̀ ti jáde, kí our great solution tọ̀. So nobody should be worried. Sọ fún yín pé mi ni last man standing. Nigeria máa wálẹ̀, ṣọgbọ́n ẹ̀. Nigeria máa wálẹ̀, kò sí nǹkan tó lè ṣe mọ́. The end ẹ̀ la wà. Ìjọ bí àṣà Dr. Zabi, ìjọ tó máa bọ́ sí nìkan la mọ̀. But pé ìlú kan máa fún wa ní country, ẹ̀tútù ẹ̀dànù. Nobody gives anybody country. Kò sẹ́ni kankan tó máa fún yín ní country. Mo kí Kentos, ṣọ́ọ̀pù wọn ni mo wà báyìí. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ọkọ̀ wọn náà. Ọkọ̀ tọ́jú mi. Mo kí ẹ̀gbọ́n mi Tito. Àwọn ló ń gbé wa káàkiri. Kíyàn fi iṣẹ́ wọn sílẹ̀, kó máa drive èèyàn káàkiri. It's not easy. Mo kí mọ̀mísí mi náà. Mo kí gbogbo ìyá dáadáa. Gbogbo pictures yẹn máa bọ́ta ní. The rest of the picture, we still have few more. I've posted some today. Àwọn tá a fi kámẹ́ta fi níyà. Beautiful pictures. And tó bá fẹ́ picture wọn, ẹ lọ sórí Facebook or máa lọ sórí website. Ó máa difficult to send everybody their pictures. So I'm gonna upload it sórí website mi. Tó ń pè ní Koikimedia. So you'll be able to get your pictures from there. Then Koiki níbo ni ẹ wá báṣẹ́ dé? Ẹ̀yin máa wọrí, iṣẹ́ ń lọ náà ni. Iṣẹ́ ń lọ. I have to go now, those of you on the Twitter, because the phone battery is low. You can join me, or I might start another one. But mo fẹ́ dé post office. Mo type ṣe wà. Lẹ́yìn láti lọ wá nǹkan tí máa jẹ. So thank you so much, ẹ̀yin tí wà lórí Twitter. Ẹ tí mọ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Ẹ fẹ́ mọ̀ tó ń bọ̀ ní bọ̀tá ẹ tí mọ̀. So gbogbo ẹ̀yin wa, àdúrà ní ká máa ṣe fún Bàbá Kítóyè. Ọlọ́run fún ní ọgbọ́n. Fún lọ́gbọ́n, ó dẹ̀ fún lóye. So we are still on the right track. Nigeria láti pín ṣọgbọ́n kò sẹ́ kankan tó gbọ́dọ̀ dá dúró. It has to go. A bomb bastard country. Olóyè ni a bomb bastard. Olóyè ni bá mi. I love that man too much, man. Shit. Ọkùnrin mẹ́ta gbowó ṣá. Ọlọ́run bá nífẹ̀ẹ́. Náà máa nífẹ̀ẹ́ kú ni. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, a máa nífẹ̀ẹ́ Ìgbòho kú ni. Ibi tó bá dẹ̀ lọ làwa ń lọ. Ibi tí Ìgbòho bá ti ní òun lọ là ń lọ. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni. Sample kan la kọ fún yín. A ṣe dinner, a àṣẹ rally ẹ jẹ́ lọ máa wo fídíò rally yẹn dáadáa wọ́n máa pa títì rẹ̀ fún wa màá ní wọ́n náà àwọn APC UK ń sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn máa lè àwọn olórí burúkú àwọn tó ní kúre àwọn tó ní ṣàǹfààní ṣé sọmọ Yorùbá láwọn yẹn ó lè ní gbogbo wọn pátá ẹni Koiki ló sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ bomb bastard APC UK tẹ́pọ̀ ọ̀nà mẹ́ta ló pín sí kọ́lọ̀ fọ́run kẹ́ Ọ̀túnba Dàpọ̀ Williams ìyẹn nìkan ni Buhari recognize àti Tinubu gbogbo àwọn tó kù gẹ̀gẹ̀lẹ́ ni wọ́n mo rí táwọn náà ń kọ́ átíkù ẹ̀gbọ́n mi Títò náà sẹ́ndì bọ̀bọ̀ kan sí mi olúkálukú wọn kọ tiẹ̀ kí ló ń já yín láyà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni kò ní bàjẹ́ fún ẹ màmá dáadáa gbogbo àwọn gírámà yẹn ẹ̀yà ẹsẹ̀ àwọn ìyá ẹ̀kan rìn ni àyà mi wọ́n já mo rí àwọn máma wó níye olórí Èkó ogun rọrìn láti BBC wọ́n pa títì rẹ̀ fún wa ni wọ́n ní ìkan náà sọ̀rọ̀ Títò sẹ́ndì kan sí mi náà lánàá ní tàn láti máa dá gbogbo yín lóhùn àwa bízì gan mo kí sísítà mi Àdùkẹ́ àwọn ti padà sí Island mo kí àwọn ti bàbá Fadila àwọn tèmi ní Benin Republic bàbá Kìtì bá mi sọ̀rọ̀ láàárọ̀ yìí mo rẹ̀ ti send àwọn picture yẹn sí bàbá àwọn tá a ṣe yọ láàárọ̀ yìí àwọn picture Ìgbòho ṣá àwọn tẹ́ẹ̀rí tẹ́lẹ̀ ẹ̀wọ̀n pẹ́ rí nígbà tó fẹ́ wọlé àti nígbà tó fẹ́ jáde ẹ lọ sórí Facebook ẹ lọ mú Ìgbòho ṣá ọmọládìkún ọmọládé ọ ní adé kinní kan la gbé fún kinní kan nígbà tí bàbá fi lọ kan lẹ̀kùn lélẹ̀ pé ẹ ṣílẹ̀kùn àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá dé àwọn kan ní security la gbé lẹ́tà fún Ìgbòho ṣá calculator àbákítóyè Ọ̀túnba Adémọ́lá mo kí ẹ ẹ̀rọ ìrora ń gbẹ́sẹ̀ mo kí ya mi First Bank ẹ̀rí ó kanlẹ̀kùn ẹ ṣílẹ̀kùn alẹ́ tó bá ní kọ́kọ́rọ́ ló máa ṣílẹ̀kùn fìrìgbọ̀n òṣì bàbá Akíntóyè ló ní kọ́kọ́rọ́ yẹn aṣọ fẹ́yìn wọ́n rà pọ́n ní 2x2 náà ń ṣe ọ́díò níbo ló ti ń ṣe ọ́díò pọ́n bastard ẹ lọ ka lẹ́tà statement British High Court ẹ ṣẹ́rí gbogbo tá à ń ṣe ẹ jẹ́ lọ tọ́jú ẹ̀ kẹ́ screenshot ẹ̀ kẹ́ mo dání sọ́wọ́ British High Commissioner mo fi sọ̀rọ̀ púpọ̀ lẹ́nu ọjọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ kan lélẹ̀ fi dé post office báyìí so mo kàn fẹ́ kẹ́ rí mi pé àdúró mo sọ fún yín pé ẹni mídíà tó dúró dáadáa ẹni mídíà tó dúró tán èmi ò ní ṣe àwọn tí mo ní kí mo ṣe London 10 years ni mo fi sacrifice fún Nigerian community mo ever regretted but not Nigeria anymore mo kí gbogbo àwọn tó wà tó jẹ́ Nigerian community Yẹmí Fátókè mo kí ẹ àárọ̀ ẹ̀ ẹni tó máa ń ṣòwò tí máa ń ṣòwò lọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀ tí bá fẹ́ lo lẹ́ńfì owó láàárọ̀ ẹ̀ 2000 mo ń bọ̀ ẹ̀jẹ̀ nìkan fún mi lómi. ẹ káàárọ̀. owó di 2,235 naira láàárọ̀ ẹ̀ owó 2,235 naira mo kí àdìtú ọ̀rọ̀ àdìtú pè mí kí n gbéṣẹ́ fóun iṣẹ́ ló máa ṣe kólúkálukú ló máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa bá ṣe fẹ́ kúrò ní Nàìjíríà that's all kólúkálukú ló máa sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá sọ̀rọ̀ Àṣàkẹ́ mú kí ẹ ó pè mí lánàá wọ́n tá ń bọ̀ láti Wales ẹ fìyà jẹ odidi ìran kan ṣé Britain ló máa fún wa ní country Britain kò ló máa fún wa country but Britain ló kó gbogbo àpapọ̀ Britain ò ní fún anybody ní country kò ń ṣe right wọn láti fún wa ní Yorùbá nation but right tiwa ni láti sọ fún wọn pé ìlú tí ẹ join together that end of that country is getting closer that's all tó bá wọn analysis nìkan máa ṣe that's all so ẹ lọ máa múra sílẹ̀. That's all I can say. Mo kí àwọn ìyàwó mi tó dúró dáadáa tó fi wá sílẹ̀. Ṣèbójọ́bìnrin mi ni a ní ó ti sú òun pé ká bọ́ nínú ẹ̀. Àwọn ọmọ purpose la fi gbé dání. Èmi ò ní kẹ́ má lọ Nàìjíríà tó bá fẹ́ lọ Nàìjíríà. But always prepare your exit out of Nigeria. Just anything can happen in Nigeria. Ṣẹ́gun ẹ̀gbọ́n mi Yẹmí Fátókè. Gbogbo ẹni tó bá fẹ́ lọ́lé between now and the end of the year títí the next year, just prepare for anything. Anything lè ṣẹlẹ̀. That's all. Ẹni tẹ́ wà ń lé ẹ múra sílẹ̀, kò sí tó ń bọ̀ lókè tí ilé ọgbà. So that's all I can say. So we've done 1 hour. Let's leave it like that. Come on, mo ṣe build strength mi padà. So let's leave it like that. Mo kí o gba àwọn media wa tó dúró. Lady K ẹ kú iṣẹ́. Èmi àti olóyè ń wo Àṣàkẹ́ lánàá. Àṣàkẹ́ wá bá olóyè sọ̀rọ̀. Lánàá yẹn network yẹn ọ̀dà mo ṣe yẹ kẹ́ bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀. But máa connect yín pẹ̀lú wọn lénìí. Ẹ rí wọn sọ̀rọ̀ agbára Ọlọ́run. Mo kí wé àrólé 1010. I'll still do a lot of short video pẹ̀lú olóyè. But let's give him his space. Mo kí àwọn ti Manchester dáadáa. Olórí Èkó mo kí yín. Olórí Èkó ń sọ àwọn kankan fún mi lánàá mo gbọ́ rí. Wọ́n ti fìyà jẹ wá gan-an. But private stroke public conversation ni but mo fẹ́ kí n fílẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀. I always thought that was just like a nickname. I didn't realize that. Oh, deep gone. It will shop Kentos. Bí ṣe fẹ́ kó ló kálukú máa operate lélẹ̀. Mo kí wà látà. Olórí ẹbí. Mo kí ẹ dáadáa. Kó àdúró tì. Mo kí gbogbo wa. Ẹ má kọ́ intimidating tó bẹ́ẹ̀. We have put an history, and that history will be completed. Well, Legba Yoruba nation. UK kọ́ ló fẹ́ fún ní Yoruba country. Àwa ti sọ yẹn fún yín láti ilẹ̀. Bọ́tẹ́ ẹ̀ mọ̀ pé irú jókà yẹn máa wá àbí. Mo ní búlẹ̀tì kan ni. Ẹ̀yẹn máa retí ìtókù. But pé kò ní sí ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀. Èmi lèmi sọ̀rọ̀ ilé nísìnyí o. Kò ń ṣe bàbá Akíntóyè o. Kò ń ṣe Ìgbòho o. Pé kò ní sí ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀ kò sọ́gbọ́n ẹ̀. Èmi lèmi sọ ilé Koikimedia. Legba Yoruba nation kò ní sí ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀. Níbo lẹ ti fẹ́ gbà? Èmi lèmi sọ ilé yìí o. Kò ń ṣe Ìgbòho o. Èmi lèmi sọ ilé. Ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀ máa wà. Ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀ gbọ́dọ̀ wà. Kò nígbà tí Britain fẹ́ wá kó wa lẹ́rú, ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀ wà. Nígbà tí Britain tèmi wá tó fẹ́ wá kó wa lẹ́rú, ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀ wà. Torí àwọn kan fẹ́ jẹ́ kó wọ́n di ẹrú, wọ́n dẹ̀ kó wa lẹ́rú yẹn lọ. So ẹ má rò pé Yorùbá nation orí social media láti fẹ́ gbà ó. No. A serious gidi. So mo ní sọ jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Mo kí program kí n kò relax. A máa ṣiṣẹ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ program. Dá sétò. Mo kí gbogbo àwọn tó ti gba wà lálejò nílùú yìí. Mo kí wa. Ẹ bá máa share program gbogbo àwọn medias wa. Mo kí gbogbo àwọn world media. So gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ gbaṣọ fún rally tí a ṣe tó yẹ pé sanwó, everybody will be wọ́n máa post ẹ̀ sí communicate pẹ̀lú mi. Ẹ̀yin tí ẹ ní láti change ẹ reach out sí mi. I will respond back. Mo ti send àwọn kan sọ́dọ̀ Alájà Queen Ara. Wọ́n máa bá wa post ẹ̀. Kò sẹ́ni tó máa sanwó aṣọ tó ní raṣọ gbà. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ̀ tí rà tẹ́ fẹ́ rà aṣọ ṣì wà. So màá send number Alájà Queen sí yẹn. mo sọ fún yín pé olóyè Ìgbòho Ọlọ́run ló máa bá wa protect ẹ̀. That's all. Mo kí gbogbo àwọn wòlíì gbogbo ẹ̀yin àfà ẹ má ká wá dákẹ́ àdúrà ẹ ká dákẹ́ àdúrà èmi náà ń ṣe tèmi ẹ̀yin náà ṣe tiyín ìjẹ̀sìn kan lèmi gbé dání o I haven't got the time for that. Ara ń kọ́ mi gidi àwọn ìdíbàlẹ̀ títún tí olóyè mo control you know because engine méjì pàdéra wọn ni now I can talk to him the way I wanted to. Àwọn kankan wà tí mo fẹ́ bàbá mi sọ. So that's all I can say. Mo kí gbogbo wa lẹ́ǹkan sí. We are all special people, but ibi tá wà yẹn messed up country ni, and we must be ready to defend it. Ṣé yìí sanwó aṣọ ni? Ẹni tó bá sanwó aṣọ, ẹni tó bá ṣẹ̀fẹ̀ ra aṣọ. Ẹni tẹ́ wà Nàìjíríà mo tí mo kí ni situation mo ní láti béèrè lọ́wọ́ wọn. Ẹni tẹ́ wà ní Europe ni mo sọ fún ẹni tó bá wà ní Europe tó bá fẹ́ ra aṣọ. Triple DRS mo kí ẹjẹ́ fi sílẹ̀ fẹ́ lọ post office mo dẹ̀ fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ because I'm too busy. Kó ló rí pé báwọn mi máa pòyìn pé coordinator get ready. Mo dẹ̀ ń gbé kámẹ́rà mi káàkiri ni. Kámẹ́rà, tripod, backpack. Kò sọ lóye ṣe láwọn engagement kan tó fẹ́ ṣe. Mo kí Ọlákúnlé mo wà lórí space kan lánàá Ọlákúnlé send sí mi. Mr. Koiki lọ́gbọ́n tó ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ má bẹ anybody jà ẹ jẹ́ kó máa bú Ìgbòho ẹ jẹ́ kó máa bú wa ẹ jẹ́ kó máa sọ tó fẹ́ sọ but àwa tá a máa gbàlú fún Yorùbá à ń ṣe púpọ̀ díẹ̀ ni wá and I will be one of them as a media. That's all I will say. Bọ́ pé kò sí ìtàjẹ̀ sílẹ̀ ká tó lọ ẹ tútù ẹ̀ dànù. Mo kí gbogbo wa mo kí ẹgbẹ́ màmá dáadáa mo kí a lè post nǹkan kan ṣé Libya tó mọ́ àwọn Nàìjíríà la máa post nǹkan sí tábàtẹ̀ máa ṣe nu Nàìjíríà lẹ ti máa gbà so máa pè ẹ́ sister mi Àṣàkẹ́ TV tí bá ti wà pẹ̀lú olóyè ẹ̀rí wọn bá sọ̀rọ̀ privilege lẹ́yìn àpẹyìn media bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ mo kí Saheed rẹ̀ ó rà pé ní birthday ọlọ́mà dúró tiẹ̀ mo mọ̀ bí a price kan náà tó ta ní UK ló máa ta fún yín ní náírà so I don't know ẹ jẹ́ kí n find out kí n má lọ sọ tí mo ní information £25 láta ní UK kò dẹ́ bottom ò sí níbẹ̀ committee nìkan ló ní bottom so kíyàn kan máa pé pé òun fẹ́ bottom wọn ò ní ṣe bottom fún yín committee nìkan ló jẹ́ kó dress all the way down through top nìkan lè máa rà so bó ṣe jẹ́ nìyẹn so mo kí gbogbo wa ìyá wa Grace olóṣòótọ́ mo kí yín thank you so much ẹ fọkànbalẹ̀ ẹ má yẹ kẹ́ni kankan intimidate lórí social media àwa la ní airweight lọ́wọ́ báyìí nísìn kọ́lọ̀ ń ṣọ́ Tinubu padà mo sọ fún yín pé ó sick gan kọ́lọ̀ ń ṣọ́ padà dé Nàìjíríà tí Tinubu bá dé Nàìjíríà ní wíìkì yìí tó bá máa di Sunday tá ò bá gbé padà wá sí Nàìjíríà I'll leave it like that. Bye for now. Whatever.